Now, everybody knows the Terminator, the iconic franchise familiar to many moviegoers. You know the story of this 1984 film, starring Arnold Schwarzenegger as the title character, a killing machine from the future, sent back to the past in order to change history by murdering Sarah Connor, played by actress Linda Hamilton. And her son John is destined to lead humanity in a revolt against an oppressive technocratic dystopia led by machines with highly developed AI. Their leader is an entity called Skynet. I mean, if you don't know this film, where have you been? However, what few may be aware of is the existence of some video games based on the original 1984 film. And one particularly rare gem of a game is the Sega-Cd version of the game, which is considered by many gamers and fans of the original movie to be the best version. The Terminator on the Mega-CD, or Sega-CD if you're from America, is a 1993 platform shoot-'em-up game developed and published by Virgin Games. Although the game is based on the film, creative license was taken to give more variation in the gameplay. So, this game is a totally different game to the Sega Genesis version. It's better. And the graphics and the music also took advantage of the Sega CD's capabilities. The game includes the use of digitized full motion video from the film in between levels to advance the story. Although, I have to say, it was particularly grainy. The game also utilised Q sound. And the soundtrack was composed and recorded by Tommy Tallarico, with additional songs contributed by Brad Fiedel. Yes, that fella, you know, Tommy, the guy from the Amico scan, where he was the CEO of Intellivision and promised the world with a new Intellivision console. Dearie me. Anyway, let's all forget about that, because I have to say, the soundtrack that both Tommy and Brad produced was just brilliant. And this music included hard rock, pop and techno music. The Terminator was originally scheduled for release in June 1993, but was delayed because of changes at Virgin, and it was released 6 months later than initially scheduled. Anyway, let's have a look at the game, shall we? When the game begins, we are greeted with a full motion video cutscene consisting of poorly digitised footage from the movie. I mean, games from this era tried to fill up CD-ROM space by including as much full motion video as possible, only in the 1990s. And it was thought that this could have been seen as an evolution in gaming, while in retrospect it's quite silly really. And these full motion cutscenes also play in between the stages. And after the intro, the player is treated to a recreation of the opening title sequence from the film, complete with a superb rendition of the iconic Terminator theme. The main menu can allow the player also to start the game or go to the options sub-menu, where they can change the difficulty, that is easy, medium, hard or super hard. And you can also configure the controls to your liking, play the CD quality music and sound effects, and if you really want to, and if you must, you can view the full motion video cutscenes too. Then we're on to the game. And in the game, we assume the role of the movie's hero, Kyle Reese, and must guide him through 10 stages of non-stop action along with some mild puzzle solving and maze-like elements. And the objective of each stage is to lead Kyle to the exit and occasionally fight off a boss-like enemy while pursuing and eventually defeating the title character. The game is roughly divided into two halves, with the first half taking place in the year 2029 during the last days of the war against the machines as depicted in the film, while the second half occurs in 1984 Los Angeles, California. But here we are, we're on stage 1 called Dead City. And this first level isn't too bad. What you really want to do in this opening stage is to gather as much extra lives and grenades as possible, along with a weapon upgrade. I mean, at its lowest level, the player's gun can only fire a single on-screen shot at a time. I mean, that's not exactly going to kill a Terminator, is it? Boy, listen to that music. I mean, the music in this level sets the tone for the game. A non-stop, action-packed thrill ride, it really is. Now, you've got to watch out for those larger tank-like Terminators. These can kill Kyle Reese on contact, which is where the grenades come in. I recommend a grenade combined with a shot or two from your weapon. That'll certainly take him out fairly quickly. And you can see from the game's HUD, the heads-up display, it's simple and unobtrusive, yet clearly legible, showing the player's score and lives. Yes, the game has multiple lives, up to a maximum of 9 can be picked up, as I seem to recall. The HUD also shows your health, which is divided into quarters, and it can be replenished by collecting cross-shaped first aid kits. The red ones replenish a quarter of your health, while the yellow ones restore you to full vitality. There's also body armour, which can be collected in some spots, making our hero temporarily invincible for about 30 seconds. Although be careful, because he can still take damage from falling from too great a height, and can still die from contact with a larger enemy, or falling into a pit or chasm, so still be careful. The game's levels also have checkpoints, which come in the form of black and yellow posts, beacons, which illuminate when the player runs past them. And if you do lose a life, then you will restart at the last active checkpoint, instead of the beginning of the current stage. And then, upon completing each level, you will be granted points based on your remaining health, how many enemies you have killed, and the difficulty level. Okie dokie, here we are, we're on stage 2, Wasteland. This stage shows off what the Sega Mega-CD can do when programmed properly, instead of making do with a souped up cartridge conversion. The background will frequently flash to simulate a lightning storm, and occasionally the foreground will be obstructed with decorations such as human skulls or wrecked vehicles to illustrate the bleakness of the war. Nice touches. There is also a boss-like enemy at the end of this level, which is best defeated with grenades, or use your gun if you run out of them. Right, stage 3, the Skynet base. Now, I'm quite fond of the architecture and atmosphere in this level, which screams of dystopian industrial technocracy. This stage throws a curveball by introducing plasma barriers, which can only be traversed when they are disabled. They basically flash on and off. And those rather annoying tank-like enemies from the first stage return, so we need to be careful. The player will have to traverse this level by jumping into what appears to be wind tunnels, adding a layer of semi-non-linearity to the game. Elevators also make their debut in this mission, which the player can stand on and push up or down on the controller to ride the lift in that particular direction. This stage concludes with another boss fight. My advice is grenade it to death if you can. Stage 4, Time Chamber. Now, unlike the first two stages, which featured a hard rock driven soundtrack, the music for this level is atmospheric and almost mournful. It's also this same track that plays at the end, the closing credits of the game. There's a weapon upgrade in this level if you're savvy enough. This level also features alarms which go off if you're too close to them, so destroy them if you can. And you will recognise these alarms because they've got an extremely irritating siren-like noise. At the end of this stage, it's your first contact with a Terminator, the killer machine who is capable of teleportation, so be careful not to get knocked off and fall to your death. And after he is defeated, he will escape into an open time vortex. So, you know what you have to do. Alright, now we're on stage 5, the city streets. The rest of the game from this point onwards takes place in grimy 1980s LA. Now, the player will lose their gun upgrades and special weapon after the voyage through time, forcing them to start from scratch. So, your weapon now is a shotgun instead of a phased plasma rifle in the 40 watt range. And I wouldn't worry too much because your shotgun is also upgradable. The grenades are now replaced by pipe bombs, although they still work the same way mechanically. Punks apparently hate Kyle Reese's guts, so they will do anything they can to make his life any more unpleasant than it already is. I mean, they generally throw Molotov cocktails which deal quite a bit of damage, so watch out for those. Now, the music for this level sounds like something out of an action movie, which is not surprisingly considering the source material. There's also a gun upgrade fairly early in this stage, so pick it up if you can find it. Stage 6 takes place in the city roofs. This is the first stage in the game which can get your blood pressure rising considerably. This level is more open and less linear than the previous ones, being full of dead ends and deliberately placed booby traps, such as enemies spawning at points which a player must traverse in order to reach the exit. And those punks are constantly Molotoving poor Kyle Reese into oblivion. There is also a mini-boss fight halfway through the stage in the form of a helicopter. Now, your best bet is to retreat to a ladder and climb down just enough so that it can't hit you. Then aim, hold down the fire button and wait until the chopper plummets to its doom. Now, the music in this stage sounds like something out of a Phil Collins album from the area in which the film is set. Right, now we're on to stage 7, the Tech Norbar. This level actually has some interesting features to it. For example, this stage actually features a partially destructible environment in the form of hanging spotlights, which can be shot at in order to make an enemy the unknowing victim of a free headache. A new hazard is also introduced in the form of electrical sparks, which can harm our poor hero and send him jolting back. At the end of the stage, it will be your first encounter with the eponymous electronic murderer, as well as your first contact with Sarah Connor. The stage's soundtrack is a dance mix composed of sampled and manipulated dialogue from the movie set to a techno-like beat. But anyway, you've got to defeat the Terminator and escape to complete the level. Okay, stage 8 is the police station. This level is based on what is considered to be the most frightening and intense scene in the film. This is where our hero and heroine must escape from the apparent safety of a police station while the electronic murderer goes on a rampage, butchering every police officer who dares to stand up to him. This stage is mostly linear. Follow the path before you and use the elevators provided at each stop. And you'll have to ascend to the top, make your way to the opposite end of the map and then descend into the basement. This level is full of enemies, making it a perfect opportunity to use your pipe bombs and rack up a high score along with some body armour. Now, you will encounter the Terminator at least twice during this stage. The first encounter is actually optional. So defeat him at the end and escape with Sarah Connor to complete this level. Right, so now we're on stage 9, the factory. Now, this level will make the city rooftops look like a walk in the park with the Care Bears. It is by far the most stressful and rage-inducing stage in the game. You will encounter enemies firing at you from every possible direction, in addition to lava pits and scrap heaps occasionally from the conveyor belts and or waste disposal chutes, making this stage a real bullet hell. At the end of this stage is a contraption generating smaller versions of itself, basically green mini tanks. Destroy it and escape to complete the level. Here we are, stage 10, the final battle. So this is it, the last level. This stage will require the player to open locked doors by shooting yellow switches protruding within control panels, which will unlock a nearby area. You will also have to traverse to the other end of the map by means of a claw-like mechanism, which will open intermittently. And the claw will pass under a flashing yellow light at various intervals during its voyage. When this happens, you must time your jumps perfectly to avoid falling back to the starting point. Do this a few times and you've made it to the other side. Now, all the hazards from the previous stages are here to stop you. You will have to unlock the final area to face off against the Terminator and then pick up the game's last gun upgrade in the form of a grenade launcher, which reloads after a few seconds when fired. Destroy the Terminator, or rather cripple him by splitting him in half just like in the movie, and then let Sarah Connor do the rest. Congratulations, you finally terminated that big scary bastard, the Terminator. Then, basically you just got to sit back, watch the ending, that grainy full motion video, and enjoy the brief credits. So, there you go. So what do I actually think of this game? Well, the game is presented very well, with a title screen and opening sequence mimicking the introduction from the film, and the full motion cutscenes, while cool at the time and now considered cheesy, are part of the game's charm. This is what the Genesis and Mega Drive version should have been, but it was sadly rushed, making this game a rare occasion where the Sega Mega-CD version is actually a genuine improvement over its cartridge counterpart. Now, strangely enough, there is no high score table present, despite the game including a score counter, and the lack of unlockable extras can be a little bit off-putting to some players. Now, from the opening to the conclusion of the game, the Terminator is a classically dark side-scrolling action platformer. The graphics always stay pretty bleak, this time from design and not from the system's limitations. Even in the neon-lit dance club, Technor, the backgrounds remain dark, lit only by the bars of neon lights around the level. All of the sprites in the game are well animated, lots of little details like Kyle's flowing cape for example. The graphics could have very well been replicated on a standard Genesis Mega Drive cartridge. But I can also see some unique detail and colour that simply could not have been done with a standard console. I mean, those full motion scenes certainly required and made good use of the CD storage space. I like how every stage looks like it could have been a scene from the movie, and the attention to detail, particularly in the first half with the future war levels, is very good. And the sprites move much more smoothly and fluidly when compared to the game's little brother, and the main character sprite looks better dressed than in the Genesis Mega Drive version also. Sound-wise, this is one of the best Sega Mega-CD games I've played. The sound effects are unique, memorable and very well done, each noise appropriate for its location and time period. And for me, the music, mostly by Tommy Tallarico, is good enough to warrant its own soundtrack release. In addition to having the iconic Terminator theme from the film, we also get a completely original score unique to this release. My only issues are that the score doesn't always match up with the visuals. After all, the Terminator is a dark sci-fi horror flick with some action thrown in, and the music can risk devaluing the atmosphere. The only serious downside is that the sound is heavily compressed along with the graphics when playing full motion cutscenes. And this is curious considering the game's contemporaries on the same platform had little to no issue playing such cinematics in decent quality. And what about the game controls? Well, this game controls perfectly responsibly, a little bit too responsibly even. The player avatar is quick and nimble, which can be both a blessing and a curse. I mean, I sometimes found myself, particularly with the last two levels, which are the toughest in the whole game, trying to stay on my toes, but an unintentional misstep would cost me a life due to the super sensitive movement. And timing your jumps is very critical in this game, as there is no option to control your speed. It's either run or stop. Our hero can aim his weapon in nearly any direction, and when going up or down stairs, he will aim his gun in that particular direction when stationary. He can even shoot when climbing up or down ladders. And throwing grenades or pipe bombs also work quite effectively also. Offering up plenty of blasting, the Terminator also forces you to keep on your toes, as the levels are huge and you'll need to know the exact route through. Plenty of secrets are also on hand, giving out extra ammo, health and extra lives. The gameplay is fun, fast-paced and frantic, although it can get a little bit monotonous about 3/4 of the way through. I think this is really one of the few weaknesses of this version. It would have been nice to be able to play out a chase scene from the film at the cost of dropping one or the two of the tougher stages, instead of constant running and gunning. I mean, the tunnel chase in particular is considered to be another memorable moment from the movie. Thankfully, the game is brief. It can be completed in just under an hour if you're good enough, so it doesn't outstay its welcome. Now, the difficulties live up to their names, with the main differences being the number of enemy hit points, the frequency of enemies and scarcity of explosives, first aid kits and power-ups, in addition to higher difficulties having you start with fewer lives. I mean, the super difficulty level has you begin with a single life, and I believe checkpoints are also disabled, so good luck with that. I mean, look, The Terminator is a classic film which spawned a franchise on multiple games for multiple computer platforms. And strangely enough, each version was completely different to its contemporary counterpart, except for the PC version, which was totally unique. For me, the Sega Mega-CD version is considered to be one of the best movie tie-ins, as well as one of the best games for that platform, in addition to being a fun and enjoyable game in its own right. If I were to recommend just one version to play, then it would be this one. It is easily the most accessible, easy to pick up and play, and it is carefully balanced with regards to fun and frustration, and will leave you coming back for more. So there you go, that was my video covering the brilliant Terminator on the Mega-CD. I hope you enjoyed my video. Thank you very much for watching, it's much appreciated. Now please remember to like my video, share, give a comment and better still subscribe. So until my next video, see you all very soon, bye bye.